I have 40 years of experience, so I'm supposed to tie this all together. So, and we want equal representation of Michigan State up here, so thank you, Lee, for pushing for me up here. But my theme is going to be, I'm going to share my journey, and the underlying theme of this whole thing is we all need other people in our career. They could be people above us, people with us, people that work for us. They could be inanimate objects, and let me explain. I like this cartoon because Greg sort of had everybody stand up. The good news, as Tina said, nearly 100% attendance for the leadership seminar. The bad news, now everyone thinks they're in charge. So hopefully, you guys are going to go back to your day jobs, what you're doing, and you're going to find that you've learned some nuggets from each of our presenters. So let's give our hand to the 5 speakers. I'm glad I went last because I was taking notes from all of them, and I go back with something that I've learned. And when I graduated from Walsh, I had the chance to be the student speaker at the commencement, and one of the things I said, the day you stop learning is the day you stop living. Every day I try to come out of that day with, what did I learn today? Well, I can go home after this because I learned a bunch of things already by lunchtime. So this one we'll talk about, we'll go through that. The obligatory company slide, nobody knows who Orlans is. We're a real estate company, women-owned company. I work in a company where 72% of the employees are female. I report to a woman CEO who's younger than me, and I think she is brilliant. I love it. So it's a great company. We do real estate law, legal process outsourcing, so I got to put the obligatory slide up so I can get the day off. Okay. My journey began 40 years ago. This picture is probably almost to the day 40 years ago. So as you look at that picture, Danielle said she went to her internship and there was a bald-headed guy sitting behind the desk. HR, 40 years of HR does not cause hair loss. But it might be more hereditary than hair loss. But can you believe how big those glasses are? And it's, you know, these pictures are now digitally and everything else like that. You know, they just pull down the screen with a bunch of law books behind it. So that's where the journey started. I did graduate from Michigan State in 1979, a great year. True story, you had to take a PE class at Michigan State, so I took a basketball class. In my class was Magic Johnson and Greg Kelser. I graduated, my first job was at Winkleman's, making $11,000 a year. Magic Johnson left after his sophomore year and made $6 million with the Lakers. So HR is a great field for the 3 of you from University of Michigan, unless you can play basketball like Magic Johnson. So my first job was with a company called Winkleman's, a women's store. Some of you might remember that. It says training specialist, but I was really the gopher. Go for this, go for that, and that's how I learned going on. But this is a key slide because it's part of one of my themes, which is everybody is afraid of change. And I've had a lot of change in my life. It continued to 40 years into my career. But over those years, I've been with 7 companies. I've relocated myself and family 4 times. I've been in 5 different industries. Somebody was talking about transferable skills. So I had 20 years in retail with Winkleman's, then Lord & Taylor, then Ann Taylor, then Bridges of Georgetown. So I was in retail. I just thought I was a retail HR guy. And retail HR is you work 7 days a week, nights and weekends, all those other kinds of things. I had the ability to relocate back to Michigan in 1999. I was one of those people that got your degree and then left the state that we always say, why is the brain drain going? But I came back in 99. And I worked for a distributor of music CDs. We're the largest distributor of CDs in the world. So I got to go international, I got to visit other places. But the cool thing was I got to meet artists all the time. I can't sing to save my life. I can't play an instrument except a cowbell. But I was in a job that everybody said, wow, Mark's in the dream job, because they knew how much I loved music. I went to concerts in high school, college, and now I got to meet all these artists. I did that for 10 years. Great job, but how many of you have iPods or we all do, right? You don't buy CDs anymore. So in 2008, the company, we had to basically sell off the assets. We had to get rid of 3,000 employees, including myself. I was 2,998. And I came to Walsh on one of those walk-in Wednesdays they used to have. And I said, I mistakenly brought my checkbook and my transcripts from Michigan State. And they said, well, you can start tomorrow. So it wasn't a Monday class, Lee, it was a Thursday night class. I said, I don't want to go back to school. No, I'm going to do this in January after the company shuts down. I said, no, you can come and you'll be with a good professor, Lee Meadows. So I went the next day, and those of you probably know this story. Lee goes, on his first day, goes around the room, just like a room like this, and has everybody introduce themselves. And then he goes back and can remember everybody's name. I still don't know how he did it, but we've been friends since then. I've transferred my skills from retail to the music industry, consumer packaged goods, now to a service industry. So let me tell you some stories. We all need friends, right? Do we say that? We agree? Yes. We sang the song? Okay. Friends are mentors. And here are the mentors in my life. The first one is my mom. Somebody talked about integrity. Just talked about integrity, values. My mom came over from Poland when she was 14 years old. She had lost both her parents. She didn't speak the language during World War II and came to Detroit, went to high school at U of D, went to college, and had four children. My dad passed away when I was a teenager, and so it was just my sister and I at home. And she probably filled me with some of that Polish guilt. You know, you can do what you want, but is that something you'd want me to know about? And so those are some of the values she taught me, that core values: integrity, doing the right thing, honesty, all those things that are important to an HR executive, and quite frankly in life. So I went to New York. That picture with the long hair, I still had long hair then. I moved to New York City, so I come from a very middle class. I grew up in East Detroit, St. Clair Shores area. I didn't know anything about the big city, and I remember going in to meet Keith Maloney, the senior vice president. I was the first male human resource manager ever hired in the company, which was back then a crazy thing, having a man in charge of human resources. And he taught me how to do things right, how to treat people when they come in. Not like the internship you had. He was anything but that. And he taught me about professionalism. He taught me about standards, the things that we have to do as HR professionals. Fast forward to Handelman Company. Steve Strom, who was the CEO there, taught me how to become comfortable in my own skin. Now, some of you are comfortable in your own skin as teenagers. Some of you may never become comfortable in your own skin. It took me to really when I got to Handelman, where I felt comfortable doing things like this, representing the company, presenting to board of directors, all those other kinds of things. And I give Steve the credit for doing that. And the last person is my Spartan brother, Lee Meadows, for the reasons we talked about before. I have brought Lee now to speak to our employees on leadership classes. And yes, he did. He's encouraged me all along the way in terms of this. And he knows what the next step is. He's going to help me with my book that I'm working on. So I will give him, I'll give you a little credit in the foreword or something like that. So Lee has been a mentor in terms of public speaking and sort of that self-confidence to do these kinds of things when they call, because you can't say no when Tina and Lee call. The next thing, friends can also be books. I love to read. You learn so much from reading. I like to just hear other people's points of view. There are 4 books that have inspired me in my career, and to this day. The first one is, this may be a little dated for people in this room, and he's still alive, Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. He was an envelope salesman for a company back in Minnesota or Minneapolis, and he took over the company, and the thing he talks about here is little mnemonic devices to remember people. And I remember doing this. If I met with somebody, again, back when there was business cards and not all the, we have all our lives in our smartphones. But if I met with somebody, I'd say, okay, I know Lee has a son, he went to this school, his wife's a doctor, he lives in Ann Arbor. I'd write it on the back of the card. So then 6 months later, when I met Lee, how's your son doing at college? Hey, you live in Ann Arbor, I know we're Spartan, things, and Lee would go, how did you remember that from 6 months ago? It's not because I had a brilliant memory, it's because I wrote things down. And networking, so the whole thing was about networking. You 3 students, networking is important. I hope you've met everybody in this room, because some of them are going to be people who are going to mentor you in your careers. Next book is a great book on life. Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff. This is a book that I've read so many times, and I still don't listen to everything it says. Because I freak out about the small stuff, and I reread a chapter and go, yeah, because what we're doing is small stuff. It impacts people a lot, but we don't have to over worry about it. Just do the right thing. Be kind to people. That's what he talks about in this book. And there's like 14 variations of that book going around now.